All right, greetings everybody, and welcome to week number 5. That is right, week number 5 of your 7314 class, which is your reference class. As always, I'm your professor, Dr. Jace K. Austin, and what we are going to do this week is a quick state of the course update, and then I am going to tell you all about Learning Express Library. Learning Express Library is something that you will usually find in public libraries as well as K-12 and academic libraries, so it's one of those things that runs not the entire gambit, but the primary gambit of people that we teach here at CISL. Most of you will either be academic public or K-12 librarians, and this is a resource that is relevant to all three of those things. All right, so let's go ahead and get into that state of the course update, and then after we do that state of the course update, again, I will introduce you all to Learning Express Library. So let's see what we have on the horizon. First of all, you all should have turned in papers Sunday. They were your first papers, your virtual reference practice papers. And yeah, I do think one or two of you had requested an extension and had valid reasons for that, but everybody else should have turned theirs in. If you have not, go ahead and turn it in immediately. And yeah, once you have finished that paper, the next thing to do is to go back into the discussion boards. First of all, we do have a discussion board prompt that is going to be due this weekend, September 28th, and that's going to be the virtual and in-person reference module. Now this came up, and I figured it was going to come up, given some of the other things that have come up in the discussion, so I'm going to go ahead and address it right now. One thing that when it comes to teaching reference, one thing that you do need to kind of be aware of, and one thing that I would say quite frankly that you need to avoid, is you need to avoid being unprepared on the reference desk. And what I mean by that is there are, excuse me for a second. All right, and so what I mean by that is, I'll just put it this way, reference isn't something that is taught in any sort of, there just hasn't been even any scholarship produced on how to actually teach people how to do reference at the reference desk once they get the job. There's nothing out there to really teach people how to train folks in reference. And so what the library field does is it just has people shadow on the reference desk. That is what I see pretty much everywhere, is that these, when people get hired and they have reference jobs, they may be allowed to, if it's their first reference job ever, sometimes they're allowed to like shadow for maybe 2 weeks or so. If it's not their first reference job, they might only get a few days to shadow before they're actually thrown out to the wolves and sent out there to do the work themselves. So because of that, a lot of people are actually very frustrated. And I think I mentioned this before in a previous check-in video. A lot of people tend to be very frustrated in their first reference job in the first few weeks of it, maybe even the first few months, because we train people so poorly at libraries in reference. And so people are basically frustrated because they don't know this, they don't know that. They feel like they've just been thrown out to be a subject expert in whatever comes along, and who knows what's going to come along at the reference desk. But people are basically thrown out there and treated like they have to know everything about everything without very much training. And so when people have that situation on the job, and the first time that they feel it is on the job, then that leads to a lot of people just doubting their skills, not wanting to stay in the job, those sorts of things. Basically, people get so frustrated with their lack of knowing how to do reference that in those first few weeks or even first few months on a reference job, when they are getting a lot of questions that they can't answer and things like that, and they're constantly having to call for backup, call for one of the seasoned librarians to help them out and that sort of thing, it can be very demoralizing. So that feeling, and that's a feeling that I had to feel actually in my first reference job, okay? So the reason the assignment is the way it is, the reason I have it like that, is because I want you all to feel that now at the student level and not end up feeling it at the professional level. So my hope, and we'll see when I actually read the papers, but if you all are anything like the majority of the papers that I've had in the past for this assignment, then what's going to end up happening is you all are going to probably be telling me in your papers, and again, I haven't graded the papers yet, but you're probably going to be telling me in the papers about how it was frustrating because I just got this question. I didn't know how to answer it. I didn't know where to go to answer it. I didn't know what resources were best. I didn't even know what to expect on the reference desk. Yes, I want you to experience that now so that you're not experiencing that the same way on your first professional job, because now that you've felt that frustration that, again, I had to feel on my first professional job in front of people several times. But what you all can do now, because you felt that at the student level, you can go into your first reference job prepared. You can be asking the questions. You can ask your boss, okay, what are the questions? Because this is going to vary from library to library. So you can ask your boss or your supervisor or the head of reference or whoever. You can say, okay, what questions do we tend to get a lot of? What repeat questions do we tend to get a lot of? What resources do we use the most, so that I can watch tutorials on those resources so that I can be ready to use those resources when a question comes up? It's those sorts of things that, if you don't understand how frustrating it can be to not know everything that you wish you would know, if you don't know that already, then what's going to happen is you're going to come in and you're going to experience that not at the student level with another student. You're going to experience that frustration and everything with your first reference job. And so that's why this assignment is actually meant to be uncomfortable. Now, I was surprised because I actually did not have people ask. There are two questions that I get every single semester on that particular assignment until this semester, and that did kind of surprise me. So, and you all are bringing up concerns with the timing of the articles that have never come up before. But for one thing, one of the questions that always comes up until you guys is somebody is always asking, well, what questions are we allowed to ask? And I always have to respond, you don't get to determine what questions you get on the reference desk, so just ask whatever question you have. And that has always been something that kind of quelled people previously, but again, that didn't come up this time around, and so I found that a little peculiar. And then another question that, sorry, my dog keeps bothering me. Another question that would always come up until this semester was, what resources do we need to know in order to answer the question? And that is not a question that I can answer, in part because I don't know what question you're going to get, but then also, once you actually get a question from your classmate, from your partner, then you're having to answer in real time. So I'm not able to, unless you're doing the email, the asynchronous thing, but hopefully, and nobody did this semester, but typically people don't reach back out to me after they get the question and then they're like, what do I do to answer this question? Typically people kind of wonder what resources they need to know ahead of time, but once they actually get a question, then it's like, okay, now I get it. Now I understand why he didn't give us a list of resources ahead of time, because there was no way for him to know what was coming. And now that I know what's coming, what question I got, now I need to figure out which resources I need to use in order to answer that question. So all that to say, there is a method to the madness, and quite frankly, yes, my approach is the best approach. You may doubt that as a student. Please bear in mind that I've been doing this since 2006, so I've got some experience, and so I know what happens when people get on the reference desk before they actually have the frustration of what it's like to be on the reference desk unprepared. I try to give you all that at the student level because I experienced it at the professional level, as did most of my colleagues. And so when you actually experience it, I'm hoping that when you experience it at the student level, and this has been verified by some of my alumni, when you experience it at the student level, you're going to make sure that you don't experience it again at the professional level. So that's what I'm going for, okay? So I want that to be out there. But it is good that you all have brought your concerns. That is what you're supposed to do, and I'm more than happy to address the concerns. And so that's what I am doing at this moment. So again, all of your virtual reference assignments should be in, but you do have a virtual versus in-person module that you're going to go into this week. On September 30th, meaning next week, next Tuesday night, we're going to have Marianne Curtis. She's going to do a sync session about basically reference and delivering of reference services and dealing with parents and teachers at the K-12 level. So she's going to have a little presentation that she does on that, and she's looking forward to answering y'all's questions related to that as well. And then from there, you will have discussion board post 5 on that's going to be due on October the 5th, and then you don't have a discussion that's due again until November the 9th. So you need to be working on those semester-long projects. And in the meantime, with that, your Wikipedia edit assignment is going to be due on October the 19th, and I'm going to have a check-in video specifically dedicated to the Wikipedia edit assignment in the future, but now is not the time for that. I'm going to do that one a little closer to when the assignment is due. We're not going to have a check-in video next week, so it may be week after next that I do the Wikipedia edit assignment check-in video, okay? All right, so that is what we are looking at there. That's pretty much it for the state of the course update. So let's go ahead now. Oh, one other thing that I want to mention. So I am going to go into grading the discussion boards that I haven't graded yet, but what I want you all to know also is that discussion board prompt number 2 with the information seeking behavior, I might actually grade that later because quite frankly, it's also the one that takes that particular discussion board prompt takes a long time to grade. And also, the material gets really dry, and one thing that tends to happen, and I'll see if it happens with you all, it happens more often than not, is that I see the students just kind of looking at what their classmates did, and then they start incorporating the exact same information-seeking theories that their classmates did, because reading what their classmates did helped them understand things. And so I'll use Kuthau as an example. Somebody might use Kuthal's model, and then you might see some other people using other models, but then like Belkin and things like that. But then at some point I'll start seeing a whole bunch of people Kuthau, and then I'll be like, okay, now this is when people have started just looking at what their classmates have done and just kind of, just kind of borrowing from that. So if I see that, what I usually do once I start seeing that, if I see that, and again, I've seen it in more classes than I haven't seen it. So if I see that, I'll probably stop just responding to them individually, and I'll just say, hey, okay, I see that everybody now is using Kuthau, so I'm not going to go through the rest of them and read a bunch of repetitive stuff about Kuthau. I'm just going to explain that there were some examples that could have fit other theories, and this is why, blah, 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 and I'll probably just do that either in an announcement or in a check-in video, okay? All right, so that's all that is going on, and so that leaves us, yeah, that is it for the state of the course update. So now we're done with that. But again, be working on your semester-long projects, my friends. Be working on those semester-long projects. That is, again, I don't want you all getting caught up on that in the last week of class. All right, let's go ahead and learn about Learning Express Library. Again, this is going to be this is a resource that you will see in public libraries and academic libraries and in K-12 libraries. I'm trying to stay away from things that are primarily academic libraries because your semester-long projects and your semester-long projects and your unassignments, they both dealt very, very heavily with things that are available in academic libraries. So I'm trying to mix it up a little bit, get some things that are more relevant to public and K-12 libraries outside of those assignments for these check-in videos. And so again, Learning Express Library, yes, I am accessing it first of all based on previous teaching evaluations that I've had. I do need to make this clear. Just because I am accessing something through an academic library, which I'm about to do right now, I am accessing Learning Express Library through an academic library. But that does not mean that it's not available through public or K-12 libraries. There are a lot of databases, and you all are students, so you may not know this, and so that's why I'm telling you. There are some databases, including like Academic Search Complete, and JSTOR to an extent, that are going to be available at all different kinds of libraries and not just specifically at an academic library. And Learning Express Library is something that is, and you'll see why, but it's relevant to K-12 and public libraries, and so it's available at all these different types of libraries. So just because I am accessing it here through Mizzou does not mean that it is specifically an academic library. An academic library database. All right, so this is what I'm talking about right here, Learning Express Library. And this is just a very helpful, oh, and we got a little tutorial there, so that's great. So again, because what I'm doing is not a tutorial, what I'm doing is basically an introduction. I'm telling you about this database, what you would use it for, so forth and so on. But if you actually want to master the database, you are going to have to look at some tutorials, and you are going to have to, in addition to looking at tutorials, you're going to have to get some real time practice on the database. Just watching tutorials is not going to be enough. You do actually have to go in there and do things. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and right now Learning Express Library. And basically what Learning Express Library is, so I think I mentioned this before in a check-in video as well, your whole entire librarian career, you're going to be bombarded with the whole "they didn't teach us that in library school" thing, right? You're going to hear that a lot. There are going to be a lot of things that you kind of learn on the job or learn at conferences or learn as you advance your career. And there are going to be things that, again, you were not taught these things in library school. And so one of the things that people aren't taught in library school usually, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it now, is that typically in library school, you don't learn that there are certain types of materials that tend to get borrowed and never come back, or stolen in some cases, but things that when they get checked out, they never come back. And among the top offenders of these are going to be test books, things like SAT prep books, GRE test prep books, GED test prep books, test prep for different occupations like nursing and that sort of thing, teaching. A lot of those things get borrowed and then they never, ever, ever come back. And so what Learning Express Library does for us is it actually does give us something that kind of remedies that. It gives us an opportunity to kind of get those kinds of skill development things. We have some alternative methods to give our patrons some of those skill preparation things when our books don't come back, and that includes Learning Express Library having different test preps and things like that. So, and this is a little new. They've kind of reorganized things here. So what I want to do is go specifically, we'll come back to these in a bit. We'll come back to the skill building and PD and to the career development and job preparation. But really what this is most used for is going to be this right here, the academic skills and test preparation. Okay. And so we will, let's go to, because what I want is, prepare for college. I think that's the one I want. So, one of the things that this database is most used for is to give people test prep. Again, test prep for things like the GED, the GRE, the SAT, the ACT, those sorts of things. So you will see AP courses as well. So what you can do is you will see prepare for college, and then you can get this drop down menu. And let's say that you wanted to prepare, or you had somebody, a patron who wanted to prepare for the SAT. All right, so what you could do is, well, now this is new. It used to not be a guided SAT course, so I'm not even sure what I'm about to go into, but we will learn together. Okay, so guided SAT course, what do we have here? All right, so we have, excuse me, let me actually pause and kind of look at this. Okay, and so this is also why I record new check-in videos every single semester. It's in part to personalize the check-in videos to that particular class that semester so that you don't feel like you're just getting a bunch of recycled stuff that I put in every single semester. You do want the class personalized to you, I get it. But also, yeah, they've changed some things around. It used to be that I was able to actually do a lot of things in here without logging in, but that is no longer the case. Now I actually do have to use my login. So, yeah, and I don't really like how some of this has been redone, but in order to show you, I have to, I'm sure once I get used to it, I'll probably like it better. But yeah, so what you can do, if you've got a guided course like this, and I see now that they are moving toward the guided course because they also have that with the they've got guided ACT stuff as well. So it used to not have this guided sort of thing. It used to be more like the get ready for the PSAT and different resources there. It didn't really have the steps that it does now, if that makes sense. It would just have different resources, but now they've got now they've got steps, step 1, step 2, step 3. So they're guiding you through it. But what you can do is if somebody wants to take the guided SAT course to get ready for the SAT, yeah, they can start with step 1. and you can get this type of information here. You can start a module. So I could launch this module. What is the SAT? Launch. I'll pause while it's loading. Okay, and then what happens once it's loaded and everything, you can just go through the module. What is the SAT? In this lesson, you will learn the purpose, what's on the test, if the SAT is right for you, yada, yada. And then you just go through the module, and as you go, it'll track your progress. So right now I'm at 33% on this particular module, the first module, and it will save that progress, by the way. If you are logged in, it will save that progress for you. So you can do all that, and I actually want to now just go back to, I want to finish later. That's what we'll do. So we'll save and finish later, and that way it's going to save my progress. It'll show that I'm 33% through that particular module. All right. We're going to close that because we don't really need that right now. So as you can see, in progress, 33% complete. All right, but then if you, so let's say you didn't want all that background information, you really just wanted to get into doing the thing and to get into the resources that are actually going to prepare you. There's nothing wrong with skipping steps, okay? I see that they've got this steps approach now, but there's nothing wrong with skipping steps. So let's say you actually just wanted to go full into starting to identify your strengths and weaknesses. You didn't want background information. You wanted to assess yourself. In fact, let's not even do that. Let's do the focus on SAT reading and writing. That's step 3, and then step 4 will be the math. You can just go to the overview and strategies, click that, and you can start your lesson there. So it says not started. Go in here. I'll pause again while me. Okay, so now we've loaded, and we're going to launch. And from here, so now, and here you go. So you can go through this module as well, and it'll tell you what you'll learn, reading and writing content domains. So you can look through this, get that there, and then and again, I'll finish that later. But we can go back here, guided SAT course. And then, yeah, the big thing that a lot of people want, they want the ebooks and they want the practice tests. So I'm not actually going to go into a practice test right now, but I will try to go into this ebook here and show you. Come on. All right, I'll pause this too. Well, now my ebook won't load, so I guess this isn't really my day, but I think that you can actually click this, just so you know, you can click this and it's supposed to load the ebook. I don't know if I'm having Adobe issues or what, but anyway, so that's what you can do with the test prep. And again, there's test prep for the ACT as well, PSAT, and some of these other things, some of these other college placement tests. You've got advanced placement, AP, all that stuff as well. You also have another thing that's very popular with this, especially at the K-12 range, is you do have skills improvement things for high school students that they can do on their own, and then also educator resources for elementary and middle school. These aren't really for the students to do on their own. It's more so for parents can actually guide their children through these as well. It doesn't have to be the educator, but certainly if an educator or if a teacher wants to do it, they can use these resources to kind of reinforce what they're teaching in elementary and middle school. But then the high school students, again, they can go into these on their own. So let's say you did have a high school student that needed a little bit of help with social studies. They could come down here, go to, let's say that, hey, the Constitution. Please load. Raggedy, just raggedy. Okay, so I don't know why these ebooks aren't loading. I'm sorry. But they're not the only thing. So you can Constitution practices. I'm actually going to go to civics here and see if I can get the tutorial to load. So let's see. There we go. I'll pause while it's. Okay, and so again, you can get like and the different units for different subjects all are going to kind of look different, but here you go. So you've got a in the citizen test tutorial, civics questions. This is basically the intro to your civics reinforcement here. Can take a pretest to assess your skills, or you can just go into start the tutorial. I'm not going to do the pretest. Let's just get into the tutorial here. So takes you down here. You can read that. You can go to the next thing, and you even get little, further breakdowns within that content. So you go there. What is the supreme law of the land? You can answer. I'm not going to put in an answer right now, but you can. Well, let me see. I'm just going to put that. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. So it'll tell you if you were right, that sort of thing. If I put, let's say, yeah, so it's not going to let me, what does the Constitution do? We'll put sit there and see what happens. All right, so, yeah, and so it'll tell you what the real answer is if you're goofing off and that sort of thing, or if you're wrong. So I will actually close this without saving. I don't want to track my progress or save my progress on that because I didn't really do much. So that's something that you can do with high school students can do that on their own, and they can do that with logic and reasoning, technology, that sort of thing as well. Let me see because the technology offerings have kind of changed before. Okay, technical writing, management systems, info systems, and computing. Okay. College students, we also have test prep and resources for them, reading skills reviews, math skills reviews, that sort of thing. So again, what you should be taking from this, what you should be taking from this is that you are, and I don't even see my face at this point, so I hope you're still able to see it, but the recording software is not showing it to me. But what you should be able to see at this point is that you have different skills improvements for different student levels there. We're actually going to go home at this point and look at some other things. All right, I had to make my face big again. Let's make me small again, and hopefully I won't disappear anymore again. I probably didn't disappear on your end, but when I couldn't see where I was, that prevented me from knowing if I was covering anything up with my face. So you've seen Prepare for College. You've seen basically all of this. High School Equivalency Center, I'm not going to go into that, but that's GED skills, and you're going to have a lot of people trying to work on GEDs when they come to your library, so just know that as well. So be aware of that, but we are going to go into some of the other things now. First of all, Spanish language resources. Yes, they do have a lot of resources in Spanish. I won't go into that right now, but just be aware of that. I'm going to come back to the career development, but let's go here. So as far as computer skills and adult core skills, these can also be very worthwhile. So as far as computer skills, you will have, don't assume that people really know how to, even if they're digital natives. Nowadays, you would think that almost everybody knows how to pretty much use the computer and the internet, but that is not the case, okay? And the digital divide is still a thing. So, what you can do if you have somebody that needs to learn about getting started with a computer, these are the basics, and then you can get into learning more things like learning how to use the internet, how to use email. There are people who may need some instruction with that, especially a lot of times people from other countries who are migrants. They may need that sort of skills enforcement. Keyboarding is actually something that's useful. I'm glad I took a keyboarding class in college, but I have had people tell me that this keyboarding tutorial that you can get within this can be very helpful in learning how to keyboard. Popular software tools, I am actually going to go into this one very, very quickly. I see that they have not really, if there are newer versions, they haven't really done those tutorials yet, but let's go into Excel 2021. And what you can do is, oh goodness, I don't like this either. So it used to be that they have, and again, these databases do change, and sometimes they remove really good stuff. There used to be like a self-paced sort of module thing with Excel, and maybe it's with the older Excels. Let me actually see if what I'm talking about is still in some of the older Excels, but I don't see it there. Let's go to the oldest. Yeah, so this is what I'm talking about. This is really what would be best, I think, is if you had like the course time. Let's do the start video. Let me pause while this is happening. Okay. And this stuff isn't even loading. There's something going on either with the database or with my browser. It might be that I'm having a cache issue, and that might be also why I wasn't able to do the That might be why I wasn't able to load those PDFs either, but something funky is going on here. And so I apologize that something is funky while I'm trying to actually demo this a little bit. Again, I think it might be a cache issue on my computer, but if you have these same problems, let me know, and that will mean that it wasn't just my computer. But okay, so I wonder if I can get this video going then, because it looks like what they had for the other one is kind of gone. Oh, jeez. Okay, let me, I'm going to try a different browser. Stay tuned and see if that helps. Okay, well, just so you know, Chrome is performing even worse for me, so I don't know. Oh, there we go. It wasn't loading at first. Okay. Let's go ahead and Popular Software Tools and see if we are, come on, baby, give me something. So I was in Edge earlier, and I need to use Chrome. Sorry, guys. Let me pull it. Okay, so just so y'all know that I'm not full of hot air yet, it's doing this in Chrome as well. So it did it in Edge and it's doing it in Chrome. So anyway, I don't know what's going on, but hopefully this is just some sort of bug that will be worked out by the time you all go into this and try to use it yourself or try to recommend it to somebody. Because you certainly don't want to recommend something to somebody that is not working that well. But yes, so then you can also do, there are adult core skills, there are modules for improving your writing, for improving your math, for becoming a better reader, and then also there are resources for citizenship, which is another popular one that can come in handy for a lot of people. And then I am actually, because we're going to have other job preparation things that we can look at. In fact, I'm going to have a whole check-in video dedicated to job resources. So we're not going to go too much into this one. I'm just going to show you what's in there. And then again, if you want to, oh, actually, no, I forgot. Okay, no, that time I'm not blaming this one on the database. That was Dr. J slipping this time. That was Dr. J slipping this time. Okay, let Dr. J correct himself. I'm not going to go into the Job and Career Accelerator, but I forgot the career preparation. This is where you will find your test for the different careers. So you know how I mentioned, in addition to the ACT and SAT and things like that, I had also mentioned that you would have like the teaching exams, the nursing exams, and those books don't come back either. Well, if people need support on those things, this is where you find that. Okay. So, just really quickly, because I try to keep these check-in videos at about 30 minutes or less unsped, and this one is already at 33 minutes. So I apologize for that. Let me get through this really, really quickly, and I hope you sped this up. Nursing exams, just really quickly, I'm going to go in there. And so once you scroll down to nursing exams, again, if you need, you've got test prep, things like that. You got ebooks. I'm scared to try to access an ebook right now because it probably won't work. But let's say that you see if we can go into a practice test. Maybe that'll be a good idea. So if we start the test, I'll pause a little. Okay, and then this will take you into a practice test. The test time, 120 minutes, 70 total questions, but you can go in there. I'm going to leave it at practice, but you can do it in a simulation to where the test is going to be done when a timer is up and that sort of thing. And you have directions on how to take the test here, but then you can go into start test. I'll probably pause as it's loading. Oh, no, it didn't take that long to load. So you can do this and just keep going. So score my test. Score. So I just answered one and I apparently answered it wrong. So there you go. I answered one and I answered it wrong. I skipped, there were 42 total questions. I got one incorrect. I skipped 41. Okay. But that's how the practice tests work. And again, those can come in handy, and you do have the practice tests for the like ACT and SAT and things like that as well. Just really quickly, the last thing that I'm going to do is I am going to show you that you can do a free-form search. So let's say that you wanted to do the GRE, find GRE resources. You can actually just type in GRE and then you get a breakdown by source type. So you've got 146 things that are classified as tests, but just keep in mind that not all of those things, this search function isn't as powerful as it should be. So yeah, the first few things are going to have the highest relevance and be the most pertinent GRE test, but then as you go further down, you're going to see things that don't even deal with the GRE at all. Let's skip here and see. Yeah, so now we've gone to the GMAT and that sort of thing. So the test isn't as, I mean, the search isn't as powerful as it should be. Let me go back and do the search again and just show you all that also what you can do is, so let's say we have all this, we can actually unclick, like let's say we only wanted ebooks. We could unclick all these other things and leave ebooks clicked. And from there, yeah, everything that you see here should be an ebook. And again, the ebooks aren't loading for me for some reason. I don't know why, but hopefully that will not be the situation on your device. Okay. And then those ebooks tend to be very, very helpful. So, okay, I'm sorry that this one went way over time, but yeah, let's go ahead and end it here before we get to 36 minutes. Thank you all for your attention. I am Dr. Jace. And if somebody loses a SAT book, and you don't have any more, but somebody needs SAT help, direct them to this database, Jace database. We are done because I got my rhyme, and I will see y'all next week in a sync session. Again, no checking video next week. Bye.